So here's a video of Scott in his car trying to gain control of this this pathological laughing.
I'm okay.
Everything about his face when he's laughing is
seems like he's having a good time.
Signals of happiness.
Yeah, but what's happening in his brain is just like torture. All right. Vancouver, we're coming to you September 21st at the Biltmore. Can't wait. Tickets are on sale now, and they're flying. They're hot. You can find the ticket link in the show notes below. But guess what? Before that show, a couple of days before, on the 19th of September, Edmonton, we're coming to you again, baby. And tickets are on sale right meow. So you can go to the ticket link in the show notes of this episode or go on over to our Instagram and check the link in our bio. You can get tickets there. Edmonton, love coming out and having a good time there. One of my favorite live shows in the past was there.
Yeah, that's right.
To a death investigator.
That's right.
So cool.
And similar to, almost every show we've ever done, it sold out when we were in Edmonton last.
That's right.
And we anticipate to sell it again. So get your tickets ASAP.
Just do it. No.
Let's get right into it this week because I have a lung infection and I want to go back to bed.
When was the last time you had a lung infection?
Fucking 3 years ago.
Do you think that it could be a government conspiracy and Trikafta is actually an attempt at exterminating CF patients?
You know what? I guarantee you there's at least one person out there who believes that. There's one person, there's more than one person out there that believes this. A woman who came back from the dead says what afterlife is like and wants to go back.
Oh, no.
Now,
kill me now.
Now, yeah.
There's so many religious people who are just like, I told you.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. She does get very religious here, but I did 5-MeO DMT, and I had what I would say is the very similar experience, and it fully like fucking fucked with my head, and didn't make me religious by any means, but it definitely made me no longer atheist. So she could be onto something here, but she's a little bit. She gets very religious.
Isn't there like a type of drug like that is released in your body when you die?
DMT.
It's not 5-MeO DMT. It's just straight up DMT.
Just straight up DMT.
It's just straight.
So like maybe
it's relaxed.
Maybe you guys had not just very similar experiences, but almost the exact same experiences.
Maybe.
And maybe religion has nothing.
Dude, wouldn't it be crazy if they?
Or maybe it does have something to do with it.
Yeah,
I mean, like, what are you to say? How the fuck do you know?
I didn't say that I know. I just said maybe. I said
yeah.
What if? You said you knew.
I should say we're inferring.
I didn't say I knew.
We're inferring.
I said I had an experience.
I don't know anything.
We're inferring.
I'm just asking. I'm just the guy asking the questions
based on what we know. But wouldn't it be crazy if we could measure exactly how much DMT gets released when you die to replicate the experience of dying?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
in dosage. I mean,
that's what I feel like I did.
Right. I know, but
that's just the way I felt.
Exactly. But what if the reality, which obviously this would be very challenging to do, is that like when you die, you get twice as much, or 10 times as much, or half as much, and maybe when you take DMT, a typical dose of DMT, you actually have a way crazier experience than when you die. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, sometimes referred to as the final mystery, the truth behind what happens when we die is unclear. Some people who've had near-death experiences describe seeing a bright light, while others say they heard voices or were able to look at their own dying bodies. Now, we had the high priest on the show a number of years back.
Right.
Reverend David
McGinley, and he had a near-death experience, and his sounded a little bit similar to this woman's. Now, whether these are evidence of an afterlife or the brain just doing what it needs to do in what it thinks are its final moments, we do not know. 2 women who came back from the dead, in quotations, have described what the afterlife they both saw is like, and one of them said it was so good she wants to go back.
Sounds like drugs.
Oh, it was so good. Jesse Sawyer and Betty J. Eady had similar experiences of being dead and seeing what could be described as an afterlife in a series of surreal moments. 78-year-old Betty had a near-death experience after an operation when she felt this sensation of my body coming out of my body at a tremendous speed, and looked down to see her own body laying on a bed. Thinking she was dead, she then said she saw a trio of really ancient men who told her she had died.
Those are the three wise men. Also,
and then
she not realize that she was a ghost?
And then she flew. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure she would be a little bit confused, being sucked out of your body and looking at your body, and then seeing three old dudes going, "You're dead."
If you're floating above your body after you die, you're a ghost. That's you being a ghost.
This reminds me of the second to last episode in the Haunting of Bly Manor.
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah.
No, not Bly Manor. Haunting of Hill House.
No, it was Bly Manor. When the
Oh, I thought you were talking. Well, I don't want to say what I thought you were talking about because I thought you were talking about the bent neck lady.
No, not the bent neck lady. No.
Okay. Ooh, scary. So anyway, so these ancient men were like, "You're dead," and then she flew her spirit out of the window to her house, where she saw her family and the lives that they'd lead. She said she was then whisked back to her hospital bed and went into a tunnel where she met Jesus Christ, who she says, quote, hugged me and told her, "It's not your time yet." Betty said 3 angels then appeared and took her to a beautiful garden before she met God in the form of the most beautiful man I've ever seen. I pictured it as Steve Lund, who told her she'd had to go back to her body. Did Steve just text you?
Like literally 2 seconds before you said that.
Ooh, scary.
You know what? Yeah, I believe in God now. Also, honestly though, but just to be a little bit critical of the situation, if she believes that she met God in a pasture with a bunch of angels, the guy
No, it was a garden. It was a garden.
In a garden with a bunch of angels. Same thing. I mean, I'm just saying that guy's got to be so fucking busy. He doesn't have time to sit down with your ass and fucking.
Did you not read the Bible? God is everywhere and everything all at once.
Yeah. Omnipresent.
Yeah, he can do anything.
Well, then maybe he could look like me too, so he doesn't have to.
He can look like everybody.
He looks like God. Donut is God.
He takes the form of whatever the person before him would like him to take the form of.
And apparently, in Betty's sake, a really fucking hot dude.
He's everything everywhere all at once.
So anyway, she said that 5 years after the incident, she told her doctor about it, who then confirmed. So she didn't know this. He had confirmed that she had medically been dead for some time, and that she and she said that she wants to go back to the afterlife that she saw.
So what was? Hold on. How did I miss that? Did we say how this happened?
She was having a surgery and she died on the operating table.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't her time because Jesus told her, and then she went back to her body. And then Jessie, the other one, she had an experience at 31. That experience left her no longer fearing death. She said she saw the figure of one of her best friends who had died 2 years ago, along with a bright light, before falling back into her own body, which apparently was very painful. And doctors told her that she had briefly died and had been walking the line between life and death for a while.
Wow. See, I got no issue with people being religious. I don't fucking care. But like this is, to me, if we're going to weigh them up and go, what's more likely?
Mm-hmm. Religion or tripping balls?
Tripping balls is way more likely. Yeah. I mean, we have way more information to support that theory, and not
even religion though.
Not to say that can't give you a sense of spirituality and a connection with something greater. Because I think even just this, I mean, the brain is such a fucking mystery in and of itself for the most part. Anyway, that could, there's a lot of spirituality.
There's a lot of spirituality with tripping balls. It's like an entheogen is like a drug that you like a psychedelic experience that produces a spiritual sort of like awakening.
Mm-hmm. But the crazy thing that I'm not atheist. I think quite a spiritual person in terms of like my beliefs of what happens after you die. I just don't think that we have any capacity to really think about that with like our limited sort of brains that exist in this form on the planet. Like I believe, this is my belief.
But
I don't think anybody else has to believe that.
You can't, like, if someone goes through this experience, you have to think about it. It's like you have the experience. You're going to go, I just had the fucking craziest thing happen to me. I don't know what the fuck it means, but I got to talk about it. Yeah. And so like, if you're talking like if I came to you guys and I was like, guys, I fucking died on the operating table and I had this crazy experience, and then Brian, you were like, well, you're fucking stupid because God's fake and that's dumb, so shut the fuck up. I'd be like, okay, but like the craziest thing ever happened to me, and I'm trying to make sense of it all.
But I hear what you're saying, Brian, in the sense that it's impossible, or it's next to impossible. I would say it's impossible for us to really wrap our heads around and comprehend something like, oh, that star is 100 million light years away. Like,
totally.
Like we just can't wrap our heads around that distance. We can quantify it and represent it in an equation or in a number, but we can't really get it. And the same thing with like gigantic sums of money. We really can't. You can't visually or like you can't cognitively understand it. Yeah. And what I'm thinking here is, imagine, the same way that like Neanderthals or like Homo erectus might go, oh, like they could never conceptualize the idea of like settling in a place and growing food or something like that. Like that would be so far beyond their ability to wrap their minds around. Will there be an evolution of the human species, let's call it another 500,000 years from now or something, granted, or assuming we don't kill ourselves, that's
a big assumption,
that can wrap their heads around like death and what happens,
possibly,
and knowing what actually happens like consciously when we die.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe at that point we could revive people and bring them back and then ask them about it, but it's kind of, that would just be exactly like what happened. So maybe they already know.
Yeah.
Maybe it is
We're
a
back
dude
at
with
the
a
beginning.
beard who's like, welcome to the kingdom.
Time to party.
Speaking of evolution, here's some fucking scientific evolution that's blowing my mind.
Wait, I do have to say though, right before you go to the next piece, doesn't that sound like when like your friends greet you at the gates of heaven or whatever it is? Doesn't that sound like an introvert's worst nightmare? Like you're coming back and like all of a sudden there's so many people there that have died before you,
and no one has their own room.
And you're just like, fuck.
Everyone just is there.
Oh man, there's so many conversations I have to catch up on.
And you don't sleep because you don't have to. You don't eat. You don't have to.
Anyway, that would suck. Introverts don't die. It's going to be a bummer.
Just go to limbo. Necrobotics. What do you guys think this is all about?
Dead robots.
Yeah, dude. Researchers are turning dead spiders' legs into robotic grippers. Fuck yeah, man.
Fucking love
spiders' legs.
Yes.
So shortly after Daniel Preston, assistant professor of mechanical engineering, established his lab in Rice's Department of Mechanical Engineering in 2019, he and mechanical engineering graduate student Faye Yap had their eureka moment. Faye Yap.
Dude, that
sick name.
Sick name.
Sick name. We were moving stuff around in the lab, and we noticed a curled up spider at the edge of the hallway, Yap said in a statement. We were really curious as to why spiders curl up after they die. The researchers figured that spiders, quote, spiders do not have antagonistic muscle pairs like biceps and triceps in humans, Yap said. Quote, they only have flexor muscles, which allows their legs to curl in, and they extend them outwards by hydraulic pressure. When they die, they lose the ability to actively pressurize their bodies, which is why they end up curling up.
Crazy.
At the time, we were thinking, oh, this is super interesting. We wanted to find a way to leverage this mechanism, she said. Years later, the engineers reveal how to repurpose deceased spiders as mechanical grippers that can blend into natural environments while picking up objects like other insects that outweigh them. An open access study in Advanced Science outlined the process by which Preston and lead author Yap harnessed a spider's physiology in the first step towards a novel area of research they call necrobotics. Dude, necrobotics is a fucking sick name for like a future like Terminator movie.
Dude, do you know what necrobotics sounds like?
Yeah, totally.
It does. Yeah.
Over and over again.
Wait though. I can't even wrap my.
I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a video of it after I describe what they do.
But wait, this just sounds like all I know now, right at this point, is that some guy was like, "That would be interesting," but like I don't understand the purpose of why this could.
Have you ever met? Have you ever met an engineer? They're just like, it'd be kind of cool if I could like do this. And it's like they're constantly tinkering. You're like,
Tinkerers,
see a
man.
dead spider and be like, turn that into a machine.
Okay, never mind. It suddenly all makes sense.
Spiders employ hydraulics to move their limbs. It happens to be the case that the spider, after it's deceased, is the perfect architecture for small-scale, naturally derived grippers, said Preston. The subject was naturally interesting to Preston, and his lab specializes in soft robotic systems that often use non-traditional materials as opposed to hard plastics, metals, and electronics. The spider falls into this line of inquiry. It's something that hasn't been used before, but has a lot of potential, he said. I'm really curious about the potential here.
Yeah, me too.
Spiders use hydraulics to move their limbs, as opposed to other mammals that synchronize opposing muscles. They have what's called prosoma chamber, which contracts, sending inner body fluids to their legs, making them extend. Preston's lab chose wolf spiders for their service, and testing revealed that they were able to lift more than 130% of their own body weight, and sometimes much more.
Guys, does it make spiders even more gross than they already are?
Kind of scarier.
Inject fluid into their limbs to stretch them out, and then crush them.
It's
back
very
in.
alien.
Yeah,
you know, it's very like it doesn't seem of this world.
It doesn't.
But
yeah.
It is.
You know what's wild? I picture the
maybe it's just all panspermia. Panspermia.
But it's kind of like it makes me think that they would be really good if you. So, I know where this is going. So they basically
don't.
They have,
you don't. Wait till I show you.
So they have a toy crane, and they want the crane to pick things up like a giant claw, and so they just put this dead spider on the end. And it's already closed up, and then
almost
they
certainly
just
not.
hook up a hydraulic mechanism that just injects its body with that fluid like it already was. It opens up the claw. They release it. The sticky little spider fingers.
You nailed it. You literally nailed it.
it.
Team inserted a needle into the spider's prosoma chamber and created a seal around the tip of the needle with a glob of super glue, squeezing a minute minute amount of air through the syringe was enough to activate the spider's legs. So just air, thereby activating the legs almost instantly. Internal valves in the spider's hydraulic chamber allow them to control each leg individually, and that will also be the subject of future research. Here is a video of them doing it. I'm going to tell you right now.
We can use hydraulic pressure
this
when we use
should be the next arcade machine
to take advantage of that,
like
and extend
the claw, picking up
legs.
DVDs and shit.
That is nightmare fuel.
Isn't that cool?
We're referring to these as necrobotic.
So for people that are just listening, we just watched a spider pick up like a sugar cube. And they can do it. They have this thing just hooked up to a fucking needle, a syringe.
We placed the needle in it, not knowing
Pick it
what
up
was going to
from A,
happen.
bring it over
we
to
kind
B.
of had like an estimate of where we wanted to.
How fucking cool is
place the
that?
needle.
Yeah.
That's pretty
nasty.
crazy.
You know what?
Good, eh?
It does look.
I love that.
So for people who weren't watching, the spider's legs closed around the first object, which looked like a raspberry. Maybe it was kind of looked like a little
Yeah,
berry or
either
something
that
like
or like I thought it was like a colored sugar cube.
So,
But how satisfying did it look?
but it was crazy because it like first the feet like wrapped around it, and then as it started to lift up, the little block started to slip through like it does when you're playing the claw machine.
Yes, yeah.
Except the satisfying piece was that at the end it stayed connected to it and still lifted it.
Yeah.
Which is the exact opposite of when you're playing the claw machine, and 99,000% of the
a lot
time
of
it
the
just
time.
slips off.
I don't really get how this is like different from a lot of shit that already exists, in the sense of like, you know, when you something like a you know, like the gripper like the hand grip exercise things.
Yeah, like grip testing or grip strength.
You know what I mean? Like if that doesn't have anything on the end of it, but if that had like a tip that was supposed to grab something, it would grab it when you release it, not when you grip it, because when you grip it, the ends would open up, and as you release it, it would close it, and the spring or the coil or whatever is forcing the two gripper parts away from each other is creating, you know, a force that's closing the tip. I don't understand how this is any different from that.
Well, let's look at how useful is this technology. So there are a lot of pick and place tasks we could look into, repetitive tasks like sorting or moving objects around at these small scales. and maybe even things like an assembly of microelectronics, said Preston. Another application could be deploying it to capture smaller insects in nature because it's inherently camouflaged. As the spiders are biodegradable, the engineers are certain of not introducing a big waste stream, which can be a problem with more traditional components. Preston and Yap are aware the experiments may sound like nightmares and may border on bringing the spider back to life. Despite looking like it might have come back to life, we're certain that it is inanimate, and we're using it in this case strictly as a material derived from a once living spider.
I love how they have to say that just because there's such a large proportion of people, of which I used to be one, that's afraid of spiders.
This story came from Stina, so thank you, Stina. You get producer of the week.
I can't imagine that spider carcass is the best material that they could have to use to pick up things in that situation, even though like I hear what they're saying with those examples, but like I just imagine like pumping a little bit too much air into them, you blow the tips of their fingers or like legs, I just fucking blow them off,
hyperextend.
And they're just their limbs just fly
and
off.
then they're like zombie spiders.
There could be. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not a fucking scientist, but there could be something to this that could like maybe be applied to like nanotechnology. You know what I mean? Like we're working on smaller scale, like a certain way of like a certain mechanical function that potentially could be utilized in like nanotechnology. I don't know. Maybe.
Almost. Now that you say that, yeah, for sure.
You know,
dude. Yeah.
I didn't think
which
of it
is
that
stupid
way.
that they didn't even put it in there.
What a bunch of
like, why didn't they fucking write that down?
Dude, because they're engineers.
And since you've said it, it seems obvious now.
Yeah, it does.
Hey, here's a really fucking sad story.
Oh, yeah. That's great. This has been too happy so far.
But it's really interesting. So there's this guy named Scott Lotan. And I actually saw this video years ago. And it sort of like popped up in my feed. And so I kind of did a little bit of digging. And I found this really sad story about this guy named Scott. So Scott Lotan, he's a man with a pathological laughing condition, like the Joker.
Oh, I think I've heard of this actually as well.
And this guy is like, he seems like the most unlucky human on the face of the planet.
It's crazy because when you said pathological laughing condition, immediately I was like, that's amazing. And then you said like the Joker, and I was like,
that's really
super not amazing. So here's a video of Scott in his car trying to gain control of this pathological laughing.
I'm okay.
Whoa. Dude, how infuriating would it be to not be able to stop laughing?
Yeah.
Like, it would get old so quick.
It would drive you crazy.
And he's laughing so hard, he starts like choking.
Dude, this is exactly like the Joker.
It is,
How
right?
did he even get there in that car?
That would drive you insane.
Oh my God, yeah. It's so crazy because everything about his face when he's laughing is sending
seems like he's having a good time.
signals of happiness.
Yeah, but what's happening in his brain is just like torture. So he's from Virginia Beach, USA, and he. So here's just a story of like his bad luck. So he has no idea how he survived falling into a frozen river in Scotland as a child, but somehow he miraculously emerged from the water a quarter of a mile downstream. Whoa. This was to be the first of many near-death experiences for Scott.
Does he believe in God?
I don't know. You know what?
Doesn't say.
I don't know. In 2001, he was diagnosed with MS, so multiple sclerosis. And this brought with it the Pseudobulbar effect, or PBA, which causes him to have laughing episodes that can last up to 10 minutes. So that they get triggered, they come on, and then it happens and it goes on for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then they kind of like peter out and they go away. So a Pseudobulbar effect, or emotional incontinence, is a type of emotional disturbance characterized by uncontrollable episodes of crying, laughter, anger, and other emotional displays. PBA occurs secondary to a neurologic disorder or brain injury. Patients may find themselves crying uncontrollably at something that is only moderately sad.
Oh, is this the same thing that couples have who make out in public?
Yeah, exact same thing. Usually that comes from like a couple shared brain injury. Being unable to stop themselves for several minutes. Episodes may also be mood incongruent. A patient may laugh uncontrollably when angry or frustrated, for example. Sometimes the episodes may switch between emotional states, resulting in the patient crying uncontrollably before dissolving into fits of laughter. So that was from the Wikipedia page. Back to Scott's story here. These laughing fits are often triggered in the least appropriate moments, such as in 2003 when a special day for Scott suddenly turned into a nightmare. Quote, "We were leaving my engagement party and we were hit by a drunk driver," said the 50-year-old.
Wow.
"My fiance died at the scene.
Oh my God.
With my mother's death 3 days later. I remember being at the scene laughing and being questioned by police. At the wakes for both my mother and my fiance, I would have to separate myself from everyone as I would burst into laughter at times."
Wow.
Scott managed to bounce back from this horrendous loss and build a family, but it was almost all snatched away from him last week. So this happened just recently. Dad of 2, Scott, who works as a network architect, has been battling COVID-19, and once his quarantine period was over, he had to get an MS infusion, which lowers his immune system. After a horrific night's sleep, Scott thought he could smell smoke. "I went downstairs and my wife was in the shower," Scott recalled. "Then I could see into my garage where a fire had started. And so I ran in there and I was like, get the fuck out of here." So she had to run out of the house, barely covered, parts showing, ran upstairs, got the kids because there was still a clear pathway out, made sure our pugs, we got 2 pugs, made sure they got out. From the street, the family watched on as their house of 6 years burned to the ground. But in the midst of the horrific tragedy, they were offered a glimmer of hope. Scott said, quote, "Neighbors came together, brought my wife some clothes, took her into the home and got her dressed and calmed down the kids. That's when it popped in my son's head that he's got a turtle. And the fireman came out with his turtle tank and everything and said, we saved him. They saved the little guy's turtle." And he said, so that was a great thing. But Scott also had his neighbors there to thank for stepping in explaining his condition to the firefighters as he's there watching his house burn to the ground, laughing, fits of laughter.
And they're like, this motherfucker
exactly,
burned this thing
totally,
to the ground.
right? Yeah. So the neighbors were there helping him explain to the firefighters. And the thing he said was, most people, they don't believe this. They don't believe that he has it. Like, they think it's this fake thing. It's absolutely not in line with my emotional state. And I'm out here laughing as my house is on fire. So that looks very suspect. It's fucked. It's fucking crazy, right?
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the guy that they featured on Your Mom's House.
Who comes like 50. I mean,
wow,
that also sucks.
But very similar.
But there's something about that I can't help but laugh. I can't help but laugh.
I get it. And there's something funny, but there is something very simultaneously sad and funny.
This one makes me way more sad. The guy coming everywhere. That's.
I mean, because he had a very similar story where he was like
He was at a funeral.
He was like I was at my father's funeral and
and
they were lowering his casket in the ground and I had five consecutive orgasms.
Wow.
I know. It's horrific. It's horrific.
It's so sad.
Man,
I'm not laughing.
To be serious for a minute. To be serious for a minute. I can understand how sometimes in those like emotionally like super traumatic experiences, how your outward emotions don't reflect how you feel inwardly. Because when our friend Mary Beth passed away when we were 16, I remember when somebody first told me about it, I started laughing.
Yeah.
Because initially because I was like,
it's not real.
You're fucking with me.
Yeah.
And like and it was the first person I've ever lost in my life. And my initial reaction was to laugh because and I think it was because the emotions that I was feeling were so intense that I was like, I don't know how to react, especially not in front of a group of people.
I think we do that almost everything all the time.
But
We react emotionally.
Yeah, but this is quite different, right?
No,
like,
I know. No,
'cause,
I
like,
know.
This guy, like in your case, it's like you're trying to comprehend this fucking news, and your body's a little, like your mind and body is confused, and so you do this. He's like fully comprehending how
No, I
fucked
know.
it is.
But
and is,
imagine,
like, in it
imagine
and
though,
then laughing.
But what I'm saying too is like, so in that moment, I can understand how it's like my emotions are sort of like misplaced in the sense that like there's this overwhelming feeling. I could understand how even in a different way, like for him, you know, just a strong emotional reaction to something could just trigger that thing from happening, right? Because it seems almost like it's like that article reminds me of speaking to our past guests with Tourette's, who like they're told like don't do this thing,
and then all of a sudden
certainly they're
doing
going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
So, it seems like those are the situations. Like the situations he doesn't want to laugh in the most are the situations that he does.
Yeah. So
Man, that would be so brutal.
yeah. What was it called again? Pseudobulbar effect. PBA.
Oh, sorry.
I had mentioned this last week, but I didn't really cover it with an article. Rainwater everywhere now considered too toxic for safe consumption. Another funny little story, guys.
I don't know about you guys, but I have thought for a long time that rainwater was like a no.
I thought it was only acid rain.
Isn't all rain acid?
No.
I
thought I'm pretty sure my parents or somebody told me when I was like really young, like don't drink the rainwater.
Yeah,
don't do that.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
If it was acid rain,
I mean, they don't say that in
Sackville. They're like, take it where you can get. Are you thirsty? It's raining right now. Get out there.
Because the water from the homes there, you know.
Well, this has nothing to do with
better to just get the rainwater.
This has nothing to do with acid rain. Atmospheric levels of toxic forever chemicals are so high that rainwater everywhere contains amounts that are unsafe for long-term human consumption, according to safety guidelines, scientists say.
Fuck it, guys. We're all getting cancer.
Oh, yeah. Hazardous pollutants known as perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAs, which are sometimes called forever chemicals because they break down so slowly over time, are present at such elevated levels in environments around the world that scientists believe the ubiquitous contamination has now exceeded a safe planetary boundary.
Guys,
that sucks.
I don't know, man.
These chemicals are in the air we breathe, the water we drink, the rain that falls on our communities, and even in our blood. PFAS pollution is known to negatively affect the immune system, but the full impact of exposure on human and ecological health is not known.
Guys,
this is all pretty new.
Just before we get like too afraid, I'm just asking the question here.
I mean, you don't really have to be afraid.
I'm just asking the question.
You should be very afraid.
Are we do we
have to be
know
afraid.
that these things are increasing at our?
We should take responsibility for future people,
yeah.
but we don't necessarily have to be afraid.
But do you think that? So in this case, are these things increasing at a rate that is incredibly dangerous, or are we just getting better at measuring it?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, probably both at the exact same time.
I saw an interview with this guy who was basically like, climate change is happening. There's no like, I'm not arguing the idea that we are changing the climate and that humans are changing the climate. But he just took like a non-alarmist sort of stance on it and was like, this is happening. I think it's happening at like a slower rate. And there was all this stuff, and it was very interesting. And like, you know, I'm not smart enough to really know what's what. I mean, it seems like things are happening at an ever increasing rate, and that we are speeding up the rate at which we are influencing the environment. It seems that way to me, and it seems like that to a lot of the scientists around the world. So I'd probably lean in that direction. But like, I was watching this episode of Cosmos.
Oh,
that was the day before, but then the next day I was watching Cosmos, and actually this is similar to a conversation we were having not too long ago, Brian, about CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, and the whole episode of Cosmos was about climate change, and they were highlighting CFCs and how we realized that CFCs were destroying the ozone layer. Like that was the reason that the ozone layer had a fucking hole in it. Mm-hmm. And it didn't take that long for us to lobby for CFCs to not be used in manufacturing processes anymore. Mm-hmm. And then the ozone layer very quickly started to stop getting worse and started to get better, and will be completely better by like something like 2050 or something like that.
Which is why we don't hear about the hole in the ozone layer anymore.
That's right, because it's actually closing, and it's closing at a rate that we can measure and we know. But we haven't done that for the other things that we've now like.
Well,
why haven't
you think
we done the same thing?
I can tell you
for
why.
the things that like these fucking things.
It's because the
PFAs.
political, but it's because the political landscape is changing. There were like at one point there was a time, and like not that long ago, like even 10, 20 years ago, there was we were more politically centered as a society than we are now. Now it's polarized, so it's harder to get anything done, especially on these topics that like have a group of people who strongly disagree, like the vocal minority, when it comes to like things like climate change, where people are like, no, fuck no, let's keep fracking.
And it's weird how climate change is a politically divisive thing in North America, but it's not a politically divisive thing on different ends of the political spectrum in Europe.
Dude, what isn't politically divisive?
I know, it's fucking crazy.
It's crazy.
And it really makes you go, what the fuck is
Imagine
going on?
It makes me go, I hate humans.
Imagine having to sign up for a team and then just agree with everything that your team agree with.
But I mean, but it sucks to be able to point to something like CFCs in the ozone layer and go, guys, we've been here before. We did this.
Dude, polio though. Like we got rid of polio in North America, and now it's coming back. Because of the politicization
political
of
divide.
vaccinations.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. In light of the many open questions about this pollution,
You guys want to move to Europe?
Scientists led by Ian Cousins, a professor of environmental science at Stockholm University, have conducted field tests of 4 kinds of PFAs and analyzed countless other measurements. The team now warns that, quote, even these remote and sparsely populated regions such as Antarctica and the Tibetan Plateau, the most stringent PFAS guidelines are exceeded.
But who's to say that this guy's not just some libcuck?
Yeah. Part of the puzzle has to do with the guidelines surrounding PFAS levels, which have steeply decreased in many nations as evidence of their ill effects have mounted. For instance, a newly issued drinking water guideline value from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for a particular cancer-causing PFA is 37.5 million, smaller than the older standard. Quote, initially we thought that areas where people live would be contaminated so that guidelines couldn't be achieved there, Cousins said in an email. We were surprised by how low the new U.S. EPA Lifeline Health advisories were for PFOs and PFOA in drinking water. They were published while we were finalizing our manuscript. Cousins add that it was a big surprise to find that rain everywhere in the world would be contaminated above these guidelines. Just doesn't matter where you are. Just like wherever. Doesn't matter. If you're getting rained on, you're getting cancered on.
That makes sense though, because rain water goes everywhere.
Yeah.
What's really interesting about
tides come and they go, and we can't explain it.
What's really interesting about this problem, and what makes me optimistic, is actually, again, to go back to that Cosmos episode where they were explaining the CFCs, and like one of the ways in which we started to make it better rather than so we stopped using them in manufacturing processes, but then there was something done where there was a certain molecule that we like put into the atmosphere, and it's like when that molecule binds to the CFC molecules, it creates a different element that stops sucking up ozone, because the CFCs eat the ozone molecules, and that's what's destroying it. So they released some molecule that binds to the CFC molecule, which creates a different thing, which stops eating the ozone. I wonder if there's something. It just seems like maybe is that a solution that they're going to explore, where they put something else into the atmosphere that makes the forever chemicals a different thing entirely, which stops fucking shit up.
I wonder if we can use spider carcasses to like pluck the forever chemicals out of water.
And the other thing that I didn't think of, but now I'm thinking of, this is a hot take. What if Monsanto was actually the hero that we needed, in the sense that they would actually, what if the plot line was actually that they would end up in their heart of hearts feeling like the right thing to do would be genetically modifying plants that could pull those chlorofluorocarbons out of the atmosphere, but we just never let them realize their full potential
Or maybe
as
what-
the amazing company that they could have been.
Or maybe what we needed them to do is just take all those pesticide sprayers that are pointed down.
Yeah, the
and
chemtrails.
we just need to flip them 180 degrees, point them up,
yeah. Yeah.
and then vertical, straight vert, and then start spraying.
Actually, yeah. Fuck. See, I think that if you give it, like, you know, what's that quote? If you live long enough, you see yourself become the villain or whatever. I think it's
Something like
actually, I think it's the opposite. I think that if you give a villain enough time, they'll actually become a hero. And that's, I think we just haven't given our villains
Wow,
enough
dude,
time.
that's like some Uncle Ben shit in Spider-Man.
Well, here's a story of a man who could be his own supervillain with the superpower that he has, which I hope I don't ever get. This is this week's edition of What the Hell? A man left with whistling scrotum after surgery gone wrong.
This is more my speed.
A man in the U.S. was left with a whistling scrotum
Do your
after an
best
operation
impression.
went wrong.
That's really good, actually.
Yeah, that's definitely what it
It's
sounds
like
like.
All the birds in the neighborhood are like, what the fuck is that?
Look at that, you're like, it's my balls.
When he comes, it's like... The unnamed 72-year-old from Ohio turned up at A&E with his chief concern being the whistling scrotum, as well as shortness of breath and a swollen face. An X-ray showed he had excessive amounts of air trapped inside his chest, which caused his lungs to collapse and could have been fatal if left untreated. A report published in the American Journal of Case Reports said.
Whoa, where was the air coming from into his chest?
Now, he also had air trapped inside his scrotum, which is a rare condition called pneumoscrotum. 2 plastic tubes were inserted into his chest to drain the excess air, and he was then transferred to another hospital for further treatment. However, his condition worsened, with the amount of trapped air increasing, and a 3rd tube was inserted. After a few days, though, his lungs had recovered, and he was discharged, but the whistling sac would persist for another 2 years, which was described as an abnormally long time.
Who's writing this article?
This is from this is Lad Bible.
I'm just imagining, because if your scrotum was whistling because it was full of air for 2 years, how inflated would that shit have to be to go on pushing enough air
Does
to
he
make it
squeeze
whistle?
it to make it?
There's got to be like
a
a
pitch higher.
There's got to be like a
It's probably
replenishing.
just like he sits down and it just goes.
It's like your
And then he stands up and he goes.
like your like
He
Takes a
sits
big
down.
breath.
like your swimming trunks when you get into like in the pool or in a
Yeah.
hot tub and you sit down and they
Yeah,
just
yeah.
go like
Yeah,
–
exactly.
that's what his ball sack
Uh,
does.
How annoying is that?
It's really
Can I go
annoying.
in your
hate
hot
it.
tub?
I hate it.
Sure, yeah.
The
Okay.
man
I hate it.
adamantly denied injecting air into his scrotum, and doctors said nothing in his behavior gave them any reason to doubt this. The primary source of the whistling was identified as an open wound on the left side of his ball sack from an operation to reduce swelling 5 months earlier. Quote, whether the air escape attenuated the patient's presentation and led to a more favorable outcome will never be known, the report said. Sadly, though, the report noted that the patient will require further scrotal procedures and eventually require a bilateral orchectomy, meaning he had both testicles removed.
Whoa. Isn't it funny how the word scrotum is just funny no matter what?
Yeah,
Scrotum.
I mean,
Scrotum.
but it's only because it's your balls.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
if your tongue was called your scrotum, you wouldn't find it funny.
Yeah.
I
You'd
don't
just
know.
be
I
like-
would now. I mean, it's hard for me to.
You
not
can't
think
remove
about it.
your.
It's really
yeah,
hard.
you can't unlearn.
But I'm curious. It said that.
I burned my scrotum. That's hot soup. I
That's
burnt my
hot.
scrotum.
You know when you put something in your mouth and your scrotum just gets
Singed.
so hot.
Wait. All the taste buds on my scrotum. But did he have a lesion in his balls before
No,
the
he-
scrotum was whistling?
No. He had surgery.
Yeah.
And what I gather is that from that surgery, there was like an incision that like didn't close.
And that's the one that was whistling.
And that's the, yeah. So it was, but yeah, exactly.
But wait, how? So I mean, if it was me and I had a surgery on my balls, and then later on my scrotum was whistling, I feel like I'd be pretty sure I knew where it originated from.
Yeah.
Right? Like it seemed like they were confused where the ball whistling was coming from.
Yeah. And he's like,
he had ball surgery.
Oh, right. I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
I had surgery on my
down
ball
there
sack.
Also,
5 months ago.
And if the lesion's not closing in 5 months, man, that shit's got to be infected.
Yeah,
Or, like,
dude. Does this look
pretty
infected?
gnarly.
Yeah, well, the report concluded that pneumoscrotum is a rare clinical entity. When air is present within the scrotum, a prompt evaluation is required for source identification and stabilization of the patient. Taking a detailed history of events leading up to the pneumoscrotum is essential since a significant percentage are of iatrogenic or traumatic origin. Our case of pneumoscrotum was suspected spontaneous bilateral pneumothoracis was unusual. Wait. Pneumothoracis, which they're talking about the
Collapsed lung?
the collapsed lung, yeah, like the pneumothorax. Pneumoscrotum. Our case of pneumoscrotum from suspected spontaneous bilateral pneumothoracis was unusual. I think I have a feel our patient had an open scrotal wound from a recent scrotal procedure, which allowed the air to escape from his abdominal compartment and resulted in the concern of scrotal whistling. So
Scrotal
So the
whistling.
air wasn't getting in from the wound. It was getting in because of the collapsed lung that he had, and he just so happened to have had surgery on his balls not that long ago,
which was causing the whistle.
which was causing the whistle.
whether the air escape attenuated the patient's presentation and led to a more favorable outcome.
Do the doctors know this, or did we just get to the bottom of that?
We did.
We did. Nonetheless, he was successfully treated with multiple chest tubes, subcutaneous air drains, and supportive care.
And ball tubes? Did he need ball tubes?
No, they just took his balls out.
Oh, they did do it. in the end, yeah.
He
Man, guys, there are so many,
There's so many things that can happen to us.
unfortunate things that
I
can
know.
happen to you, and like,
It's way more common for that shit to happen to you than not. It's got to be, right?
Dude, when I did dating a nurse,
but when you think
I'm
about
constantly hearing shit. I'm constantly heaing shit from her where I'm going, holy fuck, dude. That's the kind of shit we only talk about on Feel Good Fridays.
I mean,
like a woman at some point in her life was in the ER because she had 2 ticks up her vagina, inside vertical in the vagina.
it, yeah,
I just need to know how they got there.
dude, they
She
crawled
said
in
she
there,
was
man.
peeing in the woods,
Well, that
but
makes
that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, but they can just crawl. They could just fall under her like crotch from a
Fall up into her pussy?
No, dude. They'd fall
They don't
onto
jump.
They'd fall into her crotch from the tall grass around, then they just crawl in.
You
there.
know what? I think she was.
Dude, they're
I think
tiny,
she
dude.
was fucking in the
Have
woods.
you ever?
Right. I think
well,
you're right.
I think
okay.
she was fucking in the
Oh
woods.
well, fuck that. But that's like, what are you gonna hold?
So
some,
just tell them. Say I was fucking in the woods.
yeah,
I
but
got
people are embarrassed of that.
No,
shit.
but they should say that because
maybe she
then,
fucked a tree.
Then
maybe.
Because
And
now-
that you'd want to keep that to yourself.
because now we all have to be scared.
Maybe.
See,
Maybe.
Most people probably would want to keep fucking a tree to
I
themselves.
feel like bark would only feel good one way.
Well, there
You
are
know?
tree fuckers.
Like it would feel good
Out there.
maybe going in.
Let's
and
look it up.
wouldn't
Let's look up
feel
tree
good going
fuckers.
out.
my problem with her is because of her embarrassment with her own situation, because she doesn't want to tell the doctors that she was having sex in the woods. Now we all have to live in fear of peeing in the woods because
Right.
we're assuming
Right.
that that's how she got it.
Yeah, exactly.
But she didn't get it like that.
Well,
exactly.
She was fucking.
Now,
a tree.
Totally.
so Jerry, you wouldn't feel quite the same as us because you live with CF. So like, you know, you're no stranger to shit going down.
I've had bad shit.
you know, but we've also had bad shit, and like
I've had more bad shit.
and right, way more. So it's
Yeah.
like
I got circumcised. I lost my bowels.
yeah.
I have a lung infection right now.
Yeah, you're probably in, at least part of you is always in some sort of like the next thing is around the corner mode.
Yeah.
Whereas with you and I, Bri, I know you don't.
We're like, we're good.
We're good. But at
Yeah.
the same time, we've also had our shit. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you've had your fucking appendix removed. I got hit by a fucking car. We've been sick.
Dude,
we've
you
been
know
all
what's
shit.
really good that didn't happen is that neither of us have had a bug in our ear.
That would really fucking
That
suck.
would. I had.
I saw an earwig today, and I really don't like killing bugs. But I gotta kill an earwig.
I had,
if I see an earwig, I gotta.
I had to
kill
go to the
it.
hospital.
I gotta kill an earwig.
I had to
man.
go to the hospital for something in my ear once though,
Yeah,
What
that's
was
right.
it?
Toilet paper.
Toilet
you shove
paper.
toilet paper up in your ear hole.
Right, yeah. How'd they get that out? They just fish it out?
Tweezers. It took like a minute.
Right.
I was in and out in like 5 minutes.
Why didn't you get like a person like me to do it?
Because you were asleep.
I mean, I know I wasn't. I mean, I know I wasn't there, but like if I was there, would you have just asked me to do it?
If you had tweezers, yeah.
Well, I mean, we can go to a drugstore. Shoppers is 24/7.
Well, folks, hope you enjoyed this. Tickets are on sale now for Edmonton and Vancouver. Edmonton on September 19th, Vancouver on September 21st. Calgary is going to be coming up. Tickets are going to be on sale soon for that, so keep your ears and eyes open.
Question, Brian?
Guys, we should invite the laughing guy to our shows.
Oh, that would make our shows seem so much funnier
I know.
than they
right?
actually are.
But they're
really
already pretty funny.
Dude, he like, I mean, that's one way of putting your disability to good use
You
is
should
like
just go to comedy shows.
hire yourself as a comedy like hype man.
Guys, I'm so excited to do these shows. So if you've never been to a show of ours, we will speak to a guest, but we for like, whatever, 20-ish minutes or so, we do this. We just shoot the shit and talk about ridiculous things and make really stupid jokes.
But don't take his word for it. Come out yourself. Buy a ticket. Show notes. Check out the ticket link. Go to our Instagram. Buy a ticket. Do it. Or else.
It's gonna be.
It's
gonna get super vertical. And listen, if you want to support the podcast, you can go to join our Discord. Discord's link is in the show notes too. We have the conversation happening over there. You can help produce the podcast, and we really appreciate you joining our little community. Big shout out to all of our Discord homies. And leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, and you can rate the podcast on your Spotify mobile app.
And just remember, the next life-changing illness, sickness, injury moment is right around the corner for you. And if you've already rounded that corner and you'd like to tell us about it, letters at sickboypodcast.com. And if you'd really like to go into some detail about it, sickboypodcast.com/contact. You can fill out the guest form and be a guest on the show and tell us all about your fucked up shit.
Hell yeah.
And thanks as always to the folks who make this show happen. That would be in particular Rich O'Coin, who does the theme music, and we're super excited to see him performing live at the Shore Club.
Brian, it sounds like you've been drinking lately.
Yeah, no, I was actually. I don't want to
Staying
talk
up
about
late.
My man.
Staying up late.
And
My
thanks
man.
to Jeff Lonis, who is our manager. He'd be so disappointed in me right now. Congrats, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff,
Oh,
you
just-
got a baby
just had a
today.
baby
today.
Hell yeah, baby.
Not on Friday, because it's not
Yeah.
Friday for us.
Did he name it yet? He didn't even tell us the name.
No.
All right. Well, anyway, maybe there's no name.
Well,
Jeremy,
baby.
I think he was going to name it Jeremy Etta.
That's a good name.
Interesting.
All right, folks, that's it for this week.
I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jeremy, and this is Sick Boy.